Hi, I'm Angie Hilton and welcome to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. As business owners, major challenges are inevitable. So how do we steel ourselves to weather the storms? Here, you'll find real-life stories of resilience, as well as tips from thought leaders and mental health experts on how to become unbreakable entrepreneurs. 32-year-old David Greenwood is an award-winning entrepreneur who has spent the past decade growing CentreStage Theatre Company. COVID hit his business hard, even having to remortgage his house to save the business. But his desire to see our talented youth shine was the driving force to keep the Geelong arts community alive. David, it's so good to have you on Unbreakable Entrepreneurs. I've been wanting to hear your story for a long time. So thank you for joining us.
Thank you very much for having me. I've been looking forward to it as well.
Great. So now, where do we begin? I really want to know your backstory to start with, to get into this field. Were you a performer to begin with?
So yeah, I was a performer as a young kid. I had a little mini pro career at one stage, and if you remember the Qantas ad, the original one, you'll see me hiding in the back on that.
Great.
And it got to a stage in my life where I had is this a career? Is this a viable option for my future? What do I want to be when I'm older? And originally I chose a different path. I went down a marketing and commerce path, and then I came home back to theatre and arts and singing and acting. But I don't get on stage anymore, but I'd like to do the stuff behind the background anyway.
Because you're quite young, aren't you? When I say young, I'm like really old now.
Yeah, the grey hairs might disagree, but yeah, I'm relatively young. I'm still in my early 30s. But yeah, often as a business owner, we don't always feel like that. But yeah, relatively young still, hopefully.
So to take that leap into starting your own business, were you guided by anyone? What was the initial startup?
Yeah, it started, I was in Bali, actually, having a nice holiday. I was just about to go to uni, and I was looking around. I'm like, you know what? I just want to do something and be back about the people and the actors and the performers, because quite often, back in the old school and traditional style of theatre and art, it was often about being treated as a number. But I was like, you know what, let's just do something. And I thought the way to do something is start our own company. So that's what we did. I had my dad, who was really supportive of the idea. And at the stage, my grandfather, who was, he was a singer for the Queen and did all the choirs and at the church and all the coronation ceremony, all that sort of fun. So we had theatre in the family. It was just hidden until I said, oh, this is what I want to do. It all started coming out, and so it was nice to have those two, older figures in my life sort of guide and support. And, we made mistakes early in the picture, but, we all do. And, still making mistakes now, but to have those two men in my life that sort of guided me on that journey. And then probably more recently, Mum's come into the picture. She's always been there, but, now that she starts seeing us watch shows, it's heavily when we look at shows and selections, she has a strong voice in the back of my head of what shows she wants to see in Geelong.
So when you initially started, how small was it? Did you have a little building somewhere?
Yeah, when we started off, it was a very sort of new experience, and I was quite young. So a lot of landlords didn't really want to take a risk on me, there's not much history behind my name. So I originally partnered with the Geelong Arts Centre and formed a really great relationship with them. And a lot of our bills were post-paid, which made it a lot easier in terms of trying to find a lot of capital for a brand new business. So we started with them, and we were there for about 6 months, and we'd pay at the end of the month, making it much easier than trying to find at the start, so we could sell tickets and whatnot. And then we grew into a little building in Newcombe, ironically named after my grandfather. It was Walter Street. My grandfather was Walter, so it was like the ducks were aligning. And we stayed there for about a year and a half until we sort of got a bit of momentum behind us, and then we sort of just went a bit crazy from there. From purchasing buildings and having humongous mortgages to now where we are, where we're in 3 different buildings. It's just, crazy to think that journey we've been on.
Oh my goodness. So how many students would you be up to these days?
We're close to about 300 students at the moment. That was after we've had a few drop off after COVID and the likes. And then we've just started singing lessons on top of that, which we don't include in our numbers. But if we have to count per head, probably close to 350, I reckon. And that was only 4 years old, that program.
Wow, that is incredible growth, isn't it? Were you expecting it to get this big, or do you have visions of it being even bigger?
Oh yeah, I was never expecting to get this big. I think it all started because we did 2 kids shows in a year, and we had 250 to 300 kids showing up to an audition for 20 odd character roles. And it was just like, how do we keep up with this? How do we keep up with this? And a lot of the parent feedback was like, you need to do a weekly theatre program. And we're like, okay, we'll do it. We'll do it with 2 classes, 30 kids in each, primary school, secondary school. First year, we ended up with 90 kids, and we actually had to reject kids because like we just didn't have the structural staff to keep up with it. And then we went up to like about 170 and then 200. And now we're just getting about 120 students extra each year. And we're just like, how do we keep, how do we slow down this growth? Because, we can only hold it for so long. So now we're at the moment where we're just like, let's get our processes really solid and try and not catch up, but really solidify. So the last sort of 6 months has been, okay, look at our buildings, let's purchase new buildings, let's look at how we use our spaces more effectively on what nights we rehearse or and teacher qualifications and upskilling, and really trying to work on that so we're ready for next year's growth.
So how many on your team? You must need a lot of support to make this run.
Yeah, so the education program is about 60% of who we are. So in that team, there's about 27 part-time and casual staff involved in managing students, to admin, to bookkeeping and finance and accounting. And they work anywhere between 7 and 15 to 20 hours a week per staff member. And then on the theatre side, for all the productions where we go around to different theatres, we have close to 150 contractors that sort of work for us in that time. And then plus all the family volunteers, there's about 300 or 400 volunteers. But all up, we reckon we're close to about 1,000 staff, contractors, volunteers for a year, which is quite mind-blowing as a small business.
Oh, my goodness. So how do you process all this along the way? Have there been stages where you thought, oh, this is all too much, I can't do it, like getting the buildings, having these big mortgages? Were there points where you just thought, I can't do it, it's all too hard?
Quite often. I think, you look at it and you're just like, why are we doing this? Why, why do we put our, I had to sell my house at the start of COVID to keep the company afloat. And I'm like, why are we doing this? Why are we doing it? And then you see the kids on a Saturday and their big smiles. I'm like, okay, well, that hurts a little bit, that's why we're doing it. And they're little smiles when you're over. But I look at it and I'm just like, well, if we're not doing it, someone else isn't going to do it. There's no one stepping up in the arts at the moment, and there's no sort of government support there, for Geelong Community Theatre. So we're like, we just have to do it. And, we were the only company in terms of community theatre that stayed open during COVID, and we've come out the other side really successful, and we're happy where we're at now. But, it was a really gloomy time, and we all had really bad thoughts, and and then what do we do this? Do we close the business? Do we just sell off everything and move on with our own life and sort of progress our own life and our families and all that sort of, luxuries, I would call them, because, as a business owner, you have to quite forgo, kids and holidays and all that sort of stuff quite often, just because your kids is your theatre company or your business.
How did, like the whole COVID period, how did you get through? Was there a lot of support outside for you, or did you just have to buckle up and get through it?
Yeah, we're quite resilient in some respects. As a business owner, you're quite, you're unsupported. We use the Geelong Chamber service a little bit. I use Kathy and Tanil from the Geelong Chamber quite a lot, and touch base with them to see what was going on. And Ben also helped about a year into COVID, sort of giving us some advice. So they sort of had that resource there that we could lean into. We felt like, because we were so more entrenched with keeping our actors mentally safe and what they were doing and being involved in their life, that often we didn't have time to think about ourselves, which was probably, in retrospect, something I would like to focus on a lot more. So we had registered nurses that we employed for the business to make sure that they could run mental health programs. We had, online Zoom sessions. We had archived DVDs of previous productions that we've done, so we could keep people engaged through, when we had all those various lockdowns. And for us, it was just about keeping people engaged and involved, and remind them of the good times, because we knew we were going to come out sooner or later on the other side, but it was just a matter of how long. And that was the big thing for us, is just making sure that we could keep people employed. We kept, I think we went down to about 17 staff in the education program, just because we were online and we weren't requirements. But, for us, it was just about keep the doors open, keep people employed, keep kids off the street. And that's what we keep telling ourselves. And, but as a business owner, I think I didn't reflect enough on myself, or, to provide that support to myself, or take the time out to go, you know what, no, we just need to have a glass of gin tonight, or whatever the case, or just chat to somebody, because we're too entrenched in our own business and trying to just do everything we can to keep it afloat.
Yes. Do you find now that you're through COVID, are you prioritising self-care along the way now and finding that balance in your life?
Yeah, absolutely. We have a big thing where we go for what we call, a feeding. So we go for a walk meeting every morning on our feet. we go for a coffee. And so a big thing of our new structure is we actually think about getting outside the office to catch up rather than just being stuck in, inside all day or whatever the case may be. So a big thing is, okay, and, being really a bit more informal about how we speak in terms of conversations. What did you do on the weekend? So about actually checking in on each other and being a bit more socially aware. People haven't done stuff for so long or on the Zoom call that now they've got stuff to talk about. We're just trying to build those relationships up again. So that's a big thing of our new structure, is actually getting to know our staff a lot better and our team, letting them get to know me a lot better as well, and being completely transparent about what's going on.
Great. Just having those open conversations and creating the environment that people feel like they can come to you with anything.
Yeah, exactly. And make people feel a bit vague as well, because there was a long time where, staff in the arts were, they come to us almost as a second or third job. And so they lost their other jobs. And so for us, we sort of created that relationship where we were there to sort of keep them up and keep them, paying the mortgage and all those bits and pieces. So we built up a great relationship in there. And most of our staff now have been with us for 3 or 4 or 5 years because they sort of feel valued enough to have the respect. And now they're actually self-recruiting. I think we've got 3 teachers that we recruited last week that were based on recommendations from our current staff, which was great for us.
Amazing. Are you surprised at how you've been able to lead through this? I mean, before this, you were at uni, I presume, but being a leader in something so tough, are you surprised at how you've been able to do that?
Yeah, I think for me, it wasn't even so much being a leader myself. It was about bringing those people around me on the journey. And they did a lot of the leading for me. I don't know if that's a leadership quality myself, but I found having some really good people by my side that I was able to help. I was able to focus more on the accounts and making sure that they could do what they needed to do. So I think what surprised me the most was I hated accounting before COVID. It was my least favorite thing to do, and I hated doing the books. Whereas on the other side now, any accountant could ask me a question. I'm like, yeah, I know what this is about. So if anything taught me, that was sort of the leadership skills that I learned, was how to step out of the picture a little bit and trust my staff to run the organisation almost on behalf of me. So much so that I've booked my first holiday in about 5 years, which is nice.
You just booked it?
Yeah, so we're off to New York. So I'm very excited for New Year's. So it'll be good to go over there and see some shows and bring them back to Australia.
Oh, it sounds like a well-deserved holiday after 5 years. My goodness.
I know COVID took 3 of those offers, but at least it's a chance to get away for a week and a half.
Going to happen with your beautiful husband Brett, and you guys got married in 21.
Yeah, so we got married. There was 5 days where they had no lockdown, and we were a bit stressing because it was the 5 days out. We got married within the 5 days, and it was just sheer chance it worked out on our date. We thought we were going to have to cancel, and it just luckily it worked out, and we were capped at that. We were allowed to have 150 there. I don't know how we were, but Dan was being very nice to us that week, but we were very lucky just to scrape it in. Otherwise, who would have known by the time we got wedding dates now? But and we just bought our house again, so we just bought a new house the last couple of weeks. So life feels almost back on track,
Wow. And, to be in a business like that, you need some great support behind you. How is Brett as a support?
Yeah, he's always people first. He's I'm going to say the kinder one of us both. he's the softer one, and he actually he's become best friends with my mother as well. And often she runs her own business and is like, oh, can you do this for me, David, or this. I'm like, it might take me a week to get to, but he just does it straight away for her and able to sort of give her that son love that she can't get from me all the time. So it's nice having that. And because right at the start of COVID, our staff were involved in a big car accident. So we, a lot of us come out with various disabilities and the likes of that. So having him there that understood, and being patient there. So he had not only COVID, but managing a partner with a disability now and ongoing back injuries. And it's been a really big change to our life. So it's, I'm very lucky. And I said, anyone that can stand to put up with me for 12 months deserves to get married to me, because no one else can.
Deserves an award. I'm sure he says the same sort of thing about you. So you were in the car accident with other staff members? Yes.
So at the end of 2019, we had our Christmas party, and we always have a really nice Christmas party, so it's like escape rooms and champagnes, and normally I'm designated driver because I don't like to drink at CentreStage events. And so I was designated driver, and the stupid incident that someone had, he just had a bad day and he was on his phone and just cleaned up the whole minibus, and there was 11 of us on there.
Oh
So
my
it was a really
goodness.
sad day for the company. It took us a lot to sort of come out of that, but having half the business sort of pulled out, and then unable to work, and then having to keep the business afloat and let the students, all that sort of stuff,
Wow.
was a tough thing to manage. And a lot of staff are still going through, therapy and surgery and all that sort of fun stuff. But
my
yeah, it was
gosh.
a nice double whammy with COVID and that almost at the same time to get through that. And that part of that self-reflection is quite often I didn't think what I needed to do. So for that first 2 years, I was in a lot of pain, whereas now I'm finally getting operations and taking time off work to go into hospital. So that's where I felt like I probably should have focused on myself back then. But, at the time, sort of, hindsight's a great thing. But I would have loved to have done that a bit better and hopefully been a lot better in position now.
Wow, gosh, you've certainly been through some tough stuff, haven't you?
Yeah. And look, other people have had it tougher, and, so we don't like to compare, but, we all have our own little battles, but that was just another one that was unexpected.
And do you feel like your team are even closer because of going through such big things
Yeah.
together?
And absolutely. And we have, real new rules in the organisation that we don't get minibuses anywhere anymore, and, all that sort of stuff. And, but everyone's got that connection. I know it sounds awful, but everyone's got that connection of a bad experience that sort of brought them together, and we can all relate to what each other went through, and and realize why we keep doing theatre, and we do it for the love of the people, and and they have that connection to still exist is really nice.
And you see it does ooze out of your business, because I know children that go there. I've seen the shows, and there is this just vibe that you guys create. Everyone's buzzing.
Yeah.
Every child that I know that goes can't wait to get there each week. What do you
Great.
put all that down to? Is it the passion of the teachers and yourself?
Yeah, I think for the student program, our teachers are all, either a VIT registration, so they're registered teachers in their own merit. And that's a big thing about our program, where we vary and a bit differently. So our teachers are paid substantially more than our competitors, and so they're actually there, they enjoy it, and actually know how to get the best out of the students. So we actually see real big results. But our number one rule at CentreStage is people come first. Doesn't matter what's going on, our people come first. So if it's a family member or something happens in life and you have to call in sick, we don't ask for medical certificates. We don't ask for reasons. We just say, that's okay. And that's a big thing to us, that we're not, nosy. We don't get involved in the gossip. We just try and be there to support each other when people need us, and become that referring service. We created this big mental health zone and mental health project right at the start of COVID, and it just escalated because of the COVID lockdowns. But that sort of held a lot of families up, and they're sort of thankful for that, and that sort of passion that they come in each week is sort of an extension of how we looked after them and how they looked after us almost.
Amazing. So when you say mental health program, what sort of things did you implement?
So we got a number. So I touched on how we got a registered nurse that comes and supports us and provides free services for our students and families. We also created a mental health zone. So it's a 20-foot container that's been converted. It's full of sensory toys and meditation, and a lot of resources where they can jump online and find different things, or if they just need 10 minutes to jump out. So a lot of our students have various disabilities. We have a 1 in 5 rate. And so if they're in a situation where it's causing a lot of hypersensitivity or whatever the case, we can remove them from the room, have a chat, and then bring them back in as they sort of feel need. We also have partnered with about 12 or 15 different organisations like the Arts Wellbeing and Beyond Blue, where we become a referring service, and we can actually provide some of their curriculum on behalf of them that they sort of trained us in. And all our staff now do the mental health wellbeing training. So they do that every year, and then they do a refresher in the middle of the year. So it's all about making sure that our teachers can handle when a student comes up to them crying, rather than say, "Oh, you'll be right." It's actually understanding why they're crying.
It sounds like an incredible organisation.
Yes.
And would you say your mission is, it sounds like almost about just growing humans into, confident adults. Would you say that's all part of it?
Yeah, it's really a social company. It's really a family company that, that the finance has always come second to us. It's always about seeing opportunity and seeing kids grow. And, we've got 4 kids at the moment that are doing Mary Poppins auditions that are in the final round, which is really exciting for us. And we've got people in Hamilton and various shows throughout Australia. And so it's nice to see that the students have come through our program and now getting a lot of pro work. And that was always our goal, is to feature Geelong talent on a national scale, even worldwide scale. And we've got a few actors even in the Marvel series, which is in Flash at the moment, which is fantastic for us, because, to see CentreStage on a world scale is just mind-blowing.
Yes. What would you say about Geelong talent on a whole, what you see coming through?
Oh, it's Geelong. I love Geelong and I'm a bit biased, but when I compare Geelong talent across Australia, we by far punch above our weight. We go to shows quite a lot. I see about 80 to 90 shows a year from throughout Australia. And I go to Griffith Uni or Whopper, and I'm just like, you know what? That Geelong show was better. I don't know, that's really sad to say, and they've had 4 years of uni, but sometimes I sit down, I'm like, we're doing some really good stuff down here. And it's just, people have always seen Geelong as being that bit far away, but the last 2 years, a lot of companies have shifted towards that mentality of our goal is not to hold on to actors, is to get people up to Melbourne. And so everyone in Geelong is on that same wavelength now, and they can see that progression. And it's just, people like yourself and that are involved in the arts and having those opportunities where they can see Geelong people highlighting in roles, they can go, great, that's where I want to be in 5 years or 10 years or whatever the case. And that's what we advocate for. And if a pro opportunity comes up, we've got a teacher in Frozen at the moment, and he was like, I can't work for the next 3 months. And we're like, no issue, you're in Frozen, you're going to take that opportunity, and you're going to run with it. And he's over in Perth at the moment doing Frozen. So it's about students seeing those and going, great, that's where I want to be.
Yes, I can aspire to that. That's incredible. So in terms of the future, have you got big plans? Do you want to go bigger with this, or is there more of a personal growth thing that you want to go through?
Yeah, I think there's a sort of double-edged sword there. My personal growth is that, in the next 5 years, I would like to see a new David in the company in terms of, I'd like to be able to step out. My goal is to spend a year overseas over in Europe with the young family. That's where our family goals are going. But as a company, we've got massive goals at the moment. We've got a new theatre that we're building in North Geelong. We've got another large building that we're just about to start building in January in Nor Lane, which is another big dance studio and storage space. So that's going to add to our portfolio of buildings. And then what we offer is just going crazy, that we're just talking now about, we're going into instrument lessons, because a lot of our singing students are like, well, I want to be able to play piano, or I want to be able to play guitar. So we started going down that wavelength and doing some trials at the moment, offering piano. And, we have some lofty goals, what we want to do in the pro world as well. So that's on our horizon, but we haven't quite done all the research in that area yet in terms of how we want to manage that and staffing and resources and all that sort of fun stuff. We've got big goals, and my goal is to get to 600 students and pilot all 600 of those in Geelong.
You seem like such a naturally driven person. Do you feel like you had a business brain to start with, or were you more on the creative side?
I think I was business first, and a big part of our organisation, when we used to be like a board of directors or committee focused, our big emphasis was on we have business people in the room first and theatre people second, just because we knew that if you can make these fantastic projects that are very creative, but sometimes if there's no money in the account, you can't do those. So it was always our goal to always be business first. I'd like to think I'm more shifted towards the creative and art and the set designs and the way things look and visually appear. That's where my headspace is normally more at. But I think we always business owners have to be a bit of push and pull every now and then. That we all like to say we're business people, but often our heart takes over and our emotion takes over, and we pick a project that's just beautiful and we want to do because we love it, and then we realise it was a bad decision. But we all make those mistakes, and I've made a few of those in my life.
So what shows have we got coming up, and anything that you really want to bring to Geelong down the track?
Yeah, so we have 11 shows currently in plan at the moment. So that includes Annie, We Will Rock You. We also have West Side Story that we're currently interviewing directors and choreographers for. We should announce that in the next few weeks. But then, shows that I'd love to see are your Billy Elliots and your Matildas and all those movie remakes that are currently being turned into musicals like Tootsie and just some fun 80s and 90s movies that I grew up to bring back to Geelong, because they're just starting to come out to Australia now, and we have to apply for license from the owners, and they're all just slowly starting to hit to us. But the plan is we're off to New York in January. I'm meeting with 2 producers over there to see if we can become a premiere. So we have the Australian premiere of one of those shows and do a bit of a trial circumstance for us as well.
Oh, I love it. It's so exciting for our town that you're making all this happen. Okay, so if someone was thinking about going into business for the first time and they're inspired by your story, what advice would you have to someone right at the start?
I would say is find a good accountant and find a lawyer that you can trust, a good solicitor. I have an amazing team of people that do my books for me, and that was my weakness when I first started. And there is so much paperwork to make sure that your great business idea or business name is secured correctly in the start. So, whether it's trademark or whether it's just set up your bank accounts correctly. And so my biggest advice is find those people that you can lean on, and they don't have to be expensive. You can find people that can do it really cheap these days, or even a family friend that can provide that free advice, or even reach out to the chamber that might be able to help you with a few links, but is really get that right from the very start. From there, try and find as many services that are post-payment. So you pay at the end of the month, because sometimes you need to open the doors to make money before you can start paying bills. And, I'd like to say try not to put too much of your own money in, but we all are passionately connected to our business, and sometimes that's unavoidable. But that would be my sort of 4 tips anyway, for people starting a new business or going into the arts or along that lines.
Great. Now, can I ask, do you have a mantra that you live by?
Yeah, we sort of have this mantra I do is just because things are always done that way, it doesn't have to be done that way in the future. So our big goal is we always refine the process or find a new way of doing it. And that's been a big ethos of our company since day one.
Amazing. And if you could invite 3 people to the opening of one of your musicals, they can be living or past, who would you want to hang out with in the green room?
Living or past, I think my number one, I am obsessed with Andrew Lloyd Webber. So that would be my personal choice, is to have a seat right next to him and sort of have a couple of glasses of champagne and get to know what he's working on and, how do we get involved. Mm-hmm. I think part of that as well, you'd have to bring some sort of political power in there to at least voice what community theatre is. So, that would be your Albo or whoever becomes our next Prime Minister, just to say this is how the arts are struggling and have their ear for half an hour or an hour just to talk to them about it. And then I think the third one would be, my grandfather didn't see a lot of my work that I did and he passed away quite early on in the picture and hasn't seen what CentreStage has become. So to have him, with a seat next to me in the theatre would be a sort of nice little, nod of the hat to him. And, we've met after him, but it'd be nice to actually have him here and celebrating with us. Beautiful.
Now, if you had one day to yourself to do whatever you wanted to in Geelong, an indulgent day, where would you go and what would you do?
What would I do? I would probably have to start off with a coffee. I have a cute little pink coffee shop with all plants in it I like to go to.
Where's that?
It's called Love Honey. It's just on Maya Street, which is beautiful, more because it's just a bit of a zen relaxation. And then from there, I would probably end up at the theatre sooner or later if it was a Friday or a Saturday night. But definitely, I have 2 beautiful cats that I'm obsessed with. If anyone knows me, quite often I'll or have something about my cats. So I think my day would probably be revolved around them. But I'd probably have to put my husband in there somewhere.
Maybe he could do the massage.
Yeah, somewhere along those lines. So, yeah,
feed you.
Just be to have a coffee and have a day off almost, because we work days a week as a business owner. So for me to have even the morning to myself would be nice.
So nice. Well, thank you so much for your time, and thank you for entertaining Geelong, and we really can't wait to see what comes next with you. And when you hit that 600, can we have a big party?
Absolutely. Thank you for inviting me. We're having a big party this year when we open our theatre again, but I'll make sure I have to put you on the list for that.
Perfect. Excellent. Thank you so much, and good luck with everything.
Thank you. Have a nice day.
You too. See you, David. I'm Angie Hilton, and thanks for listening to Unbreakable Entrepreneurs podcast. If you've enjoyed this, don't forget to subscribe and head to geelongchamber.com.au for more wellbeing tips. This has been brought to you by the Geelong Chamber of Commerce and the Partners in Wellbeing program.